Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Business at 9 and you are with me, Sumita Karir. We take a look at the wrap of the day's top stories over the course of the next 30 minutes. And our top story tonight is on Supreme Court rejecting telecom operators' plea seeking a recomputation of their AGR dues. Now, these telecom companies had cited arithmetic errors in AGR computation, but the Apex Court, in its verdict, mentioned that it has gone through curative petitions and connected documents and added that no case has been made out by these telecom companies and therefore that dismissal by the top court came about. Now, Vodafone Idea's AGR dues currently stand at over 70,000 crore rupees, and of course, after this ruling, shares of Vodafone Idea declined as much as 19% in trade today. But the big question we're asking tonight is, can Vodafone Idea recover from this setback? And let's take that question and several others to our guests joining us tonight. Ajay Puri, former CEO of Bharti Airtel India and Southeast Asia, and of course, the chairman of COAI. Thank you very much, Mr. Puri, for joining us here. The question is not really about how big, whether this is a setback or not to Vodafone Idea, but how big of a setback this is going to be for the company, which is literally dealing with debt-related stress, and it is really struggling for its very existence.
Yeah, thank you very much, first of all, for having me on your show and platform. Yeah, I think we need to understand the context of this first. The industry is of the view that some of the levies are not appropriate because there are apparent errors that needed to be corrected for. And, there were some cases of double charge, double AGR calculations and so on and so forth. And therefore, industry had filed a petition in the Supreme Court, revision petition, to get that corrected and get the calculation revised by the government and DOT. The secondly, industry was of the view that the penalties and the interest rates are very extremely severe and they need to be corrected for. Obviously, we need to respect the verdict of the Supreme Court. It is disappointing. It is highly disappointing for the industry, but we need to live with this. Yes, it has a high impact on industry operators, particularly Voda and Idea, which were just making an attempt to revive back and come and compete in the Indian market. And as we all know, India deserves and needs minimum 3 operators in such a large market size, plus the government operator, obviously BSNL, MTNL, as a 4th operator. Anything lower than that, lesser than that, will cause a duopoly and is not good for the consumer. And I think I would speak from a consumer perspective and say, from a consumer interest perspective,
Absolutely.
it's extremely important for government to ensure that the market remains a 3-player, highly competitive market and serves the need of the industry, need of the company, country, need of the society. I mean, we must not forget, this is the biggest infrastructure sector that we are talking about. The digital highways are bigger than any physical highways that we are talking about or we visualize.
Yes.
And they run the entire economy of the country in a way.
Absolutely.
So yes, it
Absolutely,
will have
Mr. Puri. So you're rightly stating that this is not just a setback. This is not just a setback for a Vodafone, but definitely, consumers as well, because like you rightly stated, that this is going to be a market that only has 2 players now. But considering that Vodafone AGR dues are upwards of 70,000 crores, what really is the way out for the company now? What will it be looking forward to? Is it going to initiate discussions with some relief perhaps coming in from the government side? What do you anticipate?
I think there are, obviously, under the circumstances, there are few things that industry and the company in specific can do. One, they have to go back to the government. The government has been extremely, extremely positive. And I think the first telecom reform part 1, which came in, was extremely, powerful and very pioneering step in a way. Can government do step 2 on the reforms? Yes, certainly government can do it. Can it look at doing something towards for the AGR? I'm not too sure whether within the legal bounds, government can tweak with the AGR very substantially, but can it explore the possibilities? Possibly it can. There are other ways the government can help the industry and the company, for sure. The other possibility is, I think the Voda and Idea must remain on the course. they've already got some equity infusion. They must continue to explore the debt infusion and some more money to come in for them to boost up their 4G network and to be able to compete across the country. And I think
And
that
I
they
want
must
to ask you on that point. So I want to ask you on that point, what really happens to that fundraise then? Of course, you're stating that Vodafone Idea should continue on the course that it is on, but does that fundraise, that debt fundraise, go on the back burner?
Yeah, it does put a setback to it. But is there a possibility of fundraise still happening? I think there is a distinct possibility of fundraise happening, because if the fundraise doesn't happen, then Voda and Idea go down the tube, will go down the tube. And that is certainly that government won't want, customers won't want, consumers won't want, industry even won't want. Industry would also like to have a more highly competitive and, larger than a duopoly scenario. And, so I think it is possible and it must continue. And government has to certainly now see that what can they do to come in and intervene and help Boda and Idea in particularly, but industry, overall industry per se. There is one demand of industries to rationalize the taxation rates, overall tax liabilities and overall tax rates on the category. That's one possibility for government to consider. We've just seen one price increase. Is that enough? The second price increase or the third price increase, can they be preponed in a way? Possibly yes, because in any case, India continues to be the lowest tariff country in the world. And the ARPUs of the industry are below the 200. Even after this price increase, they're not going to cross the threshold of 200 per se. Should it be not moving towards a 300, in a rather quick 2 steps? So I think those are the possibilities. Industry, Voda and Idea, and government, all three have
So,
to come
sir,
together.
do you expect any tariff hikes to come in? Do you expect any tariff hikes to come in?
See, if the AGR relief had come in, it would have reduced the pressure on the telcos, particularly the two telcos, which is the Voda and Idea, and to an extent on Airtel, and would have made them breathe longer with more relief, and pricing could have possibly got postponed to maybe, I mean, I'm just making a guess, to another 12 months or 18 months, another price increase. But would this prepone, and should this prepone? I would say, apart from the government infusion, if there is anything government can do, that's the only route left for the industry and for Voda and Idea in particular, for their survival and existence. So yes, price increase is a possibility, and India can afford easily going up to 300 rupee ARPU, 30-40 GB consumption per user at a
Yes.
less than 200 rupee ARPU is
Yes.
unheard of across the world.
Yes, and so we did see some of those, tariff hikes actually were taken by these companies, and you're stating that that could be, a solution that these companies could resort to in the near future. But let me ask you one final question before we let you go. Now, Goldman says that the fundraise will not be enough to keep, to help Vodafone keep its market share intact, and also stating that cash flow of the company will go negative. What is your overall reading on what will happen in the short term and a long term, especially for Vodafone Idea?
Yeah, I think in the short term, Vodafone Idea certainly needs fund infusion. Equity that has come in is a welcome move, welcome situation, but they need debt. They need to invest for 4G. Their 4G coverage and footprint and quality is not as possibly good as it needs to be there to compete in the industry. So short term, loan availability of funds is a must happen. In the long term, mid to long term, pricing correction has to happen. If not, the government, kind of support through tax reductions or any other possible way. And I think the pricing correction in the long run, 2 more price increases, ARPU of 300 rupees, can give them a positive cash flow with the kind of market share that they hold today, which is 15 to 16%. But otherwise, long term is not very bright, with a 15 share, pricing being what it is. Even if you infuse a lot of debt and capital equity, but your market share is not going to swing dramatically back. So it can only gradually, it will have to hold
It is a
from where
long
it
road
is.
ahead. It is a long road ahead for
Yes.
Yes, it's a long road ahead for Vodafone Idea, like you're stating that there could be rate hikes, tariff hikes, like you're stating. And of course, the government needs to intervene, has to intervene at some point in time to perhaps look at some relief, to give some relief to some of these companies. On that note, thank you very much, sir, once again for joining us tonight and sharing your perspectives on this big story.